Hi guys, this is Jock here from Deadly Departed. This is just a very quick announcement. You're going to see a video or you're going to listen to an episode on Deadly Departed, and this has been recorded many years ago. In actual fact, these were interviews that were recorded from well-known people within mediumship in history who have now gone, have left us, but their legacy remains. And as you know, or maybe you don't, we actually took over the Other Side Press, which was another magazine that I owned in Afterlife Research. That was part of our other organisation, ISSMPI, and we bought it over from PDN because PDN had the ability to absorb TOSP into our ecosystem and to support it and help it develop even more. And there was a number of private interviews that I did, albeit before I had, a real professional setup. The quality may not be as good as it is now, but we're re-releasing these episodes for you to enjoy because these are pioneers in afterlife research, such as Robin Freud from the Skull Experiment and some other people in, Mavis Patilla, Stuart Alexander. These are interviews that we did in the Other Side Press that I'm just going to release for your enjoyment to bring them part into that ecosystem. Not only did we take all of the Other Side Press in, but we also took those interviews as well. And some articles that weren't up to our standard, were removed, and a lot actually stayed with us, and we revamped and we've been releasing them. In particular, we've recently released the Skull Experiment that Robin Foy actually wrote about. Robin Foy was one of my colleagues, also was one of the founding members of our other organisation and with the Other Side Press. And of course, he's passed on now, but his legacy remains. And so we want to support those people and to keep their memories, keep them alive, keep their memories alive. So you're going to jump into either a video episode or an audio episode. I just want you to understand that these were very, very old interviews. They won't be up to the same quality, but they're here for you, for your enjoyment. Hope you enjoy them. And if you've got any questions, and of course, you can reach out at any time. Of course, join us on paranormaldailynews.com or magazine. And also there, you can get access and join our newsletter and also our private community as well. So enjoy these interviews from the past, and I hope to see you soon in one of our next episodes. God bless. Welcome to the Deadly Departed podcast, where the veil between the living and the dead is just a whisper away. I'm Jock, and along with my colleagues in Paranormal Daily News, we will be your guides through the shadowy realms of the paranormal and the unexplained. In each episode, we will dive into the eerie and the enigmatic with the help of today's leading experts in parapsychology, science, and the supernatural. Prepare to uncover the secrets that lurk in the dark and explore the mysteries that defy explanation. Let's embark on this journey now. First of all, Colin, welcome to the first inaugural launch of our magazine, The Other Side Press, which is aptly named. And we're just going to use this opportunity to have a chat and to bring information about mediumship and what we do as mediums to our audience and to other people that are interested, and obviously let people know about your excellent work. And for those of you that are tuning in here, if you can't hear anything or you can hear Colin's dogs very, very close to him, you'll actually hear them in the background. But Colin is a spectacular medium that I've known about for many, many years and seen him on TV as I was developing, and obviously now we've developed a friendship, and we're moving forward with various things, and it's an absolute delight to have you here. Now, for some reason, I'm now looking at your groin. I don't know what's happened there.
I just moved it.
This is it. Editing. We'll be doing editing, so we'll need to splice it a little bit.
I don't do those sort of videos anymore.
And it's a great thing to see, because obviously I think everybody who has an idea of what a medium is tends to think that we're, shall we say, supposed to be holier than thou and very spiritual and never lie, never do anything, never swear. And I think it's...
I think people have a very peculiar idea of spirituality. I don't have a great deal of patience with, tree huggers and, people that go around with their head in the clouds all the time. That's not spirituality at all. Spirituality is about how you try to conduct yourself in life, how you behave towards other people, what your intention is. I'm always very, very suspicious of people constantly telling people how spiritual they are. The kids these days have a very good saying, which is, it's all very well talking the talk, but you have to be able to walk the walk.
I think that's true, and I think something that I've discussed a lot recently, and I've noticed a lot. There's a great deal of elitism in spirituality, and this is one of the things that we wanted to bring this magazine together and this publication together, because I know as myself as an up and coming author, my wife is an up and coming author, and what I found is you tend to, when people, other spiritual teachers, especially out here, they sometimes, and well, in other parts of the world, they become very elitist. The minute they have managed to make it, the minute they have made it as somebody, or as somebody who's respected as a teacher, everything else gets forgotten about, and they don't want to know you, and it's all about them, and it's all about what they can do, and it's all about their business. One of the things that I've noticed with you is you've maintained your roots more than probably anybody that I've known. You still officiate, which is an amazing thing. You still do your work as a spiritualist minister, and you maintain that spiritual integrity. Whereas I think there's a lot of counterparts, a lot of people, and certainly people that I've bumped into and I've met are very elitist, and it's, I'm such and such a person, and I do this, and when you ask them to help or to get involved or anything in any way, they tend to shut you off, because their spirituality becomes an elite spirituality that only a few can either afford to follow or can learn from, or they just like the adulation. I've noticed that a lot, in not just in mediumship, but in a lot of spiritual organisations, and it's great to see that someone like yourself maintains that natural level. You don't come out as being elitist in any manner, and you're very approachable to everybody, and I think that's an amazing thing.
Well, there's no point in adopting that attitude. It's I suppose maybe I feel somewhat different because I came from the background of the spiritualist churches, and I went into my first development circle when I was 15, and even before my first circle leader started to help me to evolve my mediumship and my healing work, the first thing that she tried to instill in us was a sense of humility. I remember one of her favourite expressions used to be, "You're only as good as the last message you gave."
That's true.
And she used to say to me, it doesn't matter whether you're demonstrating to, I suppose the biggest audience I've ever done was over 3,000, or as the Saturday just gone, I did a church service for 35 people.
See, that's amazing. I think the fact that you go and you still serve the churches is phenomenal. And I haven't served the churches since I came out here, but I will be doing. In fact, I'll be going down to Fort Lauderdale to my friend's church, Kevin, and I've promised to go down and do something down there for him and do some workshops. So I think it's very important that we don't forget our roots. I think it's very important that we remember why we're there and what we're doing, and that tends to get forgotten about a lot, and I think there's a lot of upcoming mediums, or even fledgling mediums, or people that are interested in it, that are doing it kind of for the wrong reasons. I'm not going to promote my own book, and it's not out yet, but in the book that I've written, that I finished, that I'm waiting on coming out, I coined a phrase called the Gucci handbag syndrome, which I termed as a part of mediumship, that I thought, well, it's always the coolest thing to do. It's the new handbag to have, or it's the new jacket to have, and people see it and see it. They don't see it for what it is. They don't see the divinity in it, and they don't see the spirituality in it, or how it's healing and how it helps people. See it as something cool to do.
Well, you see, I've never really seen being a medium, being a healer, being a minister now as a career. I've always thought of it as a vocation.
I wonder how many choose that word.
Well, I wish more would. And I think when you come to celebrity, is what other people see you at. You must never ever see yourself as that yourself. Someone said to me recently in a TV interview, how does it feel to be one of the UK, if not the world's most famous mediums? I said, I've never thought of myself as famous. I may be well known, but I don't think of myself as famous. And I think sometimes, that some of the up-and-comings need to think, something came up recently. I was talking about a couple of the old mediums, people who I greatly admire, people like Doris Stokes, Leslie Flip, and Gordon Higginson, and Rob Stevens, who were people in my youth who were incredibly well-known mediums.
Yeah.
And other than that generation who remembers them, nobody remembers who they are. So fame is fickle, and it's the work that you do, considering it to be a vocation, considering it to be that you are, I would go so far, of course, because of my religious background, that you are in service to God.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say, we're serving spirit. Well, actually, yes, we are. We're serving God first. We're serving the people second. We serve spirit third.
Do you know, that's very eloquently put, because it's my wife and I have many discussions like that, and we tend to always say, we're in service of God, and we basically connect with spirit, and that's the way that I look at it. We service God and we connect with spirit, and you have many discussions like that, because and people also, I think there's a great deal of mediums forget, I think, that they are mainly, as one of the things that I said recently is I'm just a stepping stone that helps people to get over to the other side, if for a short space of time, to commune with their loved ones and then come back again. And I think it's something that we need to realise, that we are in service, we're doing a godly duty, and it's not us, we happen to be that connection for a very short space.
Some people tend to say, if you abuse the gift, it can be taken away. I don't tend to agree with that, because obviously, as you and I both know, there are a lot of people that are working with the gift who have forgotten that it is a gift.
Yeah.
And it still functions for them, but I do feel that it ultimately turns on them.
It's interesting. You use the word gift, Colin, and I think this causes a great deal of arguments in our circles that we move in, and obviously in other circles. Have you got something to say?
One of my dogs has suddenly decided it's playtime.
If you are enjoying this episode of Deadly Departed, then please share it with your colleagues or share it with your friends. And if you've got any ideas on anyone that you would like us to invite onto the podcast for an interview, then please let us know. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and please remember and subscribe. God bless. So one of the things I think is interesting that you say is a gift. There's been a lot of arguments in skeptical circles and mediumship circles. People think because it's a gift, should we be giving it away freely? How do you feel regarding that side of things?
Well, as I've said, I think of it very much as a vocation. But even with a vocation, you have to earn a living.
Yeah.
And there is nothing to say that you shouldn't earn a good living.
No.
But you have to make moral judgment calls. You have to look at times when, yes, you can charge a respectable amount, just as a private doctor or a private lawyer or a private therapist would. But then there are other times you have to look at a situation and have to say, there is no money to be made here, so therefore you give your services either for a very modest amount or for nothing.
Yeah. I think it's important to create that balance. I think, certainly the way that I've conducted myself over the years is, obviously you earn a living from it, from what you do, but I've had a good balance of doing things a lot for charity, albeit very quietly, and tending to people who need it, that have been unfortunate that that can't do it. I think you've got to get a balance in your time, and a balance.
One of the things that my partner and I have done, or at least for the last 7 years, is we work on the principle that many other religions have adopted, and we work on the principle of tithing. So we look at what we've made, or what we're potentially going to make for a year, and then we say, okay, well, 10% of that we will give to charity.
Yeah.
And if life is good to you, if God allows you to have a good life, you have a responsibility to put something back.
And you bless others. You bless other people along in your journey.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. I think there's been a great deal of misconception on what we do, in as you and I have spoken in the past, is recently this morning. What we do, we're not charging for a gift, and we're not giving people we're not saying to them that this is we're giving you this gift and we're charging you for it. We're not. We're actually, it's the time that we use and the time that comes for our preparation, our study, and everything.
I have a mortgage to pay.
Yeah.
I've got 14 dogs to feed. And I have a civil partner that wants a reasonable standard of life. And so you charge for the fact that you have to maintain yourself. I remember once, a very well-known spiritual healer said to me, "I agreed to work for God. I didn't agree to live in poverty."
That's so true. That's so true. And people, I think, are imbalanced when they think that you just got to give your time. I mean, freely, if you or I or any other good medium out there gives their time and just says, come along.
Yeah.
You don't actually, you wonder why the debt collectors are standing on your doorstep because you haven't been able to do anything. So it allows you to do the job.
Without being disrespectful to any of my American colleagues, when I look at, some of their tickets for some of my counterparts in the UK, but in this time of what has been an economic recession, I've maintained my ticket prices below the £20 mark now for 4 years.
I've noticed that. In fact, there's something I discussed. I said to my wife, I said, Colin's one of the few people that has maintained a standard for everybody to be able to achieve it. I think that's amazing.
Put on e-doings of mediumship, they have to be accessible to the largest number of people.
Because you need to touch them most.
Exactly. And when you start charging 24, 25, 26, 27 pounds a ticket, and when some of my American counterparts come over here and they're charging 60, 70 pounds a ticket, how accessible is it? It's not accessible to the largest number of people, and it's not accessible probably to the people that need it the most.
Let me be devil's advocate with that and say, what about the fact that they say that they will come back to you and say something like, well, we have to bear the expense of coming over there. And what would you say to that?
Well, work it out for yourself. A 2,000-seater venue at £60 a head.
It's a lot more money than a flight.
That's covered hotel expenses and a first-class flight.
And brought an entourage with it into the bargain.
Exactly. You know, I mean, that's the other one that always makes me laugh. Is, you know, is the ones that travel with these huge entourages. You know, when I'm on tour, there's me, my tour manager, and my driver. That's it. And my tour manager doubles up as cameraman and technician.
Does he?
And my driver doubles up, selling the books and running the microphone.
That's more reasonable to see. You seem to have kept a good grasp on exactly who you are and where your roots are. You've been no stranger to skeptics in all your venues. So what I've read recently, and you know, I think out of a lot of mediums that are out there in the public, I think you've had your fair share of skeptical attacks.
Oh, but what can you do about that? You know, I mean, if you don't want to be attacked, don't stick your head above the parapet. Because if you put your head above the parapet, people are going to throw stones at you.
Yeah.
And you either accept that or, you know, it crushes you. And, you know, my attitude is well, you know, the skeptics, you know, say what you want. You don't know me. You don't know who I am. It's been quite interesting recently with the skeptics that have been picketing mine and other mediums in the UK, and also when I was in tour in Norway last week, that have been picketing my shows. You know, my tour manager's been going out and saying, look guys, you don't have to stand out in the rain. You know, Colin said, come in, we'll give you seats, you can watch the show. And without exception, not one of them had ever seen a medium work. So they're picketing something that they've actually never even seen.
Have you had a chance afterwards to actually speak to the people that were in the audience?
No, they very quickly disappear up.
Oh, do they? No, see, that's... I would have to make sure the security at the back and say, oh, don't let any of them out until we actually interview them afterwards.
I mean, when we were in Saffron Walden the other day, Kevin went out and said, look, I'm sorry guys, we would normally invite you in, but I'm afraid, you know, we are sold out and there are no house seats, so, you know, we can't invite you in tonight. But have you ever seen a medium work before? And there was two of them picketing on that night. And the lady of the two, she said, no, sir, but I've watched him on television, and then quoted two television programmes that she allegedly had seen me on. Kevin, well, I think you've come to see the wrong person because he's never been in either of those programs.
So they don't even get their information right. It's unbelievable. It's funny actually. I had an email the other day. I go about my work as quietly as I can and unobtrusively as I can, but I am known in the field that I am, like yourself. But I had an email the other day from someone who basically told me that I should turn to Jesus and I was going to burn in hell because of what I do, and that I should become a Christian and everything. And I just couldn't believe it. You know, I mean, you get these things regularly. And I've yet to see anybody picket in any venues out here yet, but I'm sure that's going to come. I mean, it's starting to get that way.
One of my funniest ones of that was in Ireland. I was in Ireland, and a little old lady came up to me, the book signing at the end of a show, and she said, Mr. Fry, can I ask you a question? And I said, yes, of course you can. She said, do you believe in God? I said, yes, of course I believe in God. She said, but do you believe in the Protestant God or the Catholic?
Do you know, I tell you what, your Irish accent's pretty damn good. It just boils down to the fact that people don't really understand the mechanics of mediumship and what we do and what it's there for, including, and I go on to another subject, including mediums. There's many mediums that I don't think really understand the full mechanics.
You know, the problem is, Jock, is, you know, what offends me, having been, you know, a working medium and healer and officiant and now minister for like 38 years, what offends me is that it is so easy for people to put this word medium in front of their name or healer in front of their name, with no development, no training. And, you know, I've been advocating in the UK here for quite some time now, not always universally popular, that all healers and all mediums must be registered. And I cannot see that there is any way forward now unless we start advocating this. And we are, and particularly here in Europe, where we have the European Community that pass far more laws than the individual countries do. If we do not start self-regulating, they will start regulating us. They've done it with the complementary health, complementary medicine industry, for want of another word, and they will do it to us as well. And we will be right back to the pre-1950s. We will go right the way back to the Witchcraft and Vagrancy Act again, where basically we will be made illegal.
Yeah, I can see that. I think this is why, we've spoke about the SSMPI and what we're trying to do, and it's kind of going down that route. We're trying to self-regulate and maintain standards, but I think the hardest thing for us to try and achieve is what do we expect as good standards. One person's standards is another person's failure, and
it's very, very, very simple. You can put it down to one very, very simple statement of what medium should be. Evidence of survival.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's as simple as that. If you cannot give evidence of personality, memory, knowledge of current events, and survival and continuation of the human soul, you are not a medium.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I would say...
and to be done with a degree of compassion, and healing and counselling as well.
And we are counsellors
that need to be learned.
And I think we are. I think one of the biggest things that certainly that I know that we've discussed in the past, and something that we want to move forward with is responsibility and understanding not only what our job is, how to actually deliver the messages, and how to do it with reverence, compassion, love, and to understand what the person is going through, and not to make it about yourself. To understand that person may be suffering. And also, I've seen some, as you have, I've seen some terrible deliveries. And I won't mention...
Look, having the facts is not enough. It is how you deliver it. A message can either heal or it can harm. And like you, I have seen far too much of mediumship harming because of poor, ill-considered delivery, rather than it being considered, thought about. And please don't think that I'm being sort of condescending to the young when I say this, because I'm not. But when I was a young man, I was about 17, I said to my first circle leader, I said, "Mrs. G, what makes a good medium?" And she looked at me, she was in her 70s at the time, and she said, "My darling, you need to have had some joy in your life, you need to have had some pain in your life, and you need some grey hair." Now, at 17, I thought it was the most patronising thing anyone had ever said to me. But I'm 52 now, I've had the joy, God knows I've had the pain, and I've got the grey hair, and I know what she means. It's well, the one thing I often say to a lot of the young and upcoming, and sometimes just the naive, and says, go out and get some life experience.
Yeah, it's missing.
It's sometimes when I watch some mediums delivering messages, I'm thinking, yeah, technically you're absolutely spot on, but you've got no feeling there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no compassion there. There's no understanding. I remember watching a young medium a couple of years ago giving a message to a woman from her son who had committed suicide. And technically, it was a very good message. But he came off platform and he was very down-faced. I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "I don't feel as though I delivered that message very well." And I said to him, "Have you ever known anyone that's committed suicide?" He went, "No." I said, "Have you ever known anyone who has had someone close to them commit suicide?" He went, "No." And I said, "When you have, you'll know how to deliver that message."
Yeah, I think that's very important, is to have an immense amount. Here's the thing. I mean, and I think
this is why I've pushed for years. in the UK here that part of mediumship development should at least include the basics of counselling.
Yeah, I think part of the work that we do is we have to counsel, and you can either go on these counselling courses and which I sometimes don't think does anything for you, or you can do it through your years of experience. I think people who have, and I think Silver Birch eloquently said it. There's an amount of suffering that you have to go through to become and to understand mediumship, or to be able to develop the spirit. As much as we don't like suffering, I think there is an aspect of mediumship that requires when someone decides, and I never decided to take up that cross. I never decided that I'm going to be a medium. I mean, I had a military career, I did other things, and it happens that that's the direction that you are guided on, and then you think, why have I suffered? I've suffered for this reason.
I think sometimes as well, Jock, the other thing that I think is really, really important for anyone that goes into the field of mediumship to understand is the limit of what we can do.
Yeah.
The limit of what we can do. And to sometimes be able to look at a person and be able to say, I am not what you need. What you require, I cannot help you.
Yeah.
You sometimes have to say, you need to see a bereavement counsellor before you even consider seeing someone like me. You need to see a doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, whatever. We are not the one size fits all for all problems. And I think there's far, far, far too many mediums and healers as well, I'm afraid, that actually bite off more than they can chew.
Yes.
And they do not have the good grace to recognise they are not what is required for a situation.
I think when you can turn around and say to someone, I can't really help you, which I've done in times, and said, and as I said to you before, I don't always take people on for sittings and readings or demonstrations because I don't think they need it. I think they need help in other directions.
Likewise, I mean, there have been many, many times over the years, when I've had people come for private sittings and they've sat down and said, I'm sorry, I'm not what you need.
Exactly, and I think so, and I think other people, and here's the thing as well. I think has the public's perception of what we do as mediums, do you think it's been disjointed over the years due to different entertainment?
Well, I think in modern years, in recent years, of course, there have been television programs like John Wedgwood's Crossing Over, my TV series, The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
What Lisa Williams has done and James Van Prague has done, which has shown mediumship in action.
Yeah.
Which is possibly the upside.
Yeah.
Then, of course, my friend Derek Okora here did a few things a number of years ago with Granada Breeze, when he was also doing mediumship live. I think probably the downside has probably been the proliferation of the ghost hunting programs.
Yeah.
Of varying degrees of quality.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them.
That have sort of, I think, possibly highlighted a side of spirit phenomena that I think is being overemphasized.
Yeah.
And not enough differentiation between what is a spirit connection and what is a ghost. I mean, a ghost to me is merely just a recording in the atmosphere.
Of an energy.
Yeah. And even when there are, I don't know whether you have had the same phenomena in the States, but we certainly have here of all of these ghost hunting companies that have sprung up off of the back of, the likes of Most Haunted.
Yeah.
And it's quite frightening. I mean, it's, to me, a lot of it is like kids with a stick going and poking a bee's nest. They have absolutely no idea what they're doing and the problems that they could be causing.
Well, here, that leads...
Not just for people on this side of life,
but on the other side.
Over, that are very close to this vibration and may have issues that they are trying to resolve.
You know, it brings on a fantastic point, and I'm sure that, you know, when my next book comes out, it's going to be quite controversial, because that's one of the things that I've concentrated on, Colin, is that people have a rose-tinted coloured glasses idea of mediumship, especially when they're coming up, and it's the cool thing to do. But I don't think they realise that the interest in the paranormal, which, you know, you and I both know is normal, but the interest in it is also, there's a dangerous side that people don't really take on board. They don't think.
Any other branch of science, and you know, I've always said that spiritualism it's a science, it's a religion, it's a philosophy. But if you study any other branch of science, before you start experimenting, you need to know the basics. If you study chemistry, you need to know chemical formula. You know, if you study physics, you need to know the basics of the laws of physics. If you're studying biology, you have to know the anatomy and physiology. You can go into the science of the paranormal, and you know, and people just going into it with no understanding, no experience, no learning, no reading, no study. And as I say, you know, if it's not like, if we use the analogy of like people with a stick poking a bee's nest, I mean, even worse, it's people doing experiments without any knowledge of consequences that they could cause an explosion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know,
if you are enjoying this episode of Deadly Departed, then please share it with your colleagues or share it with your friends. And if you've got any ideas on anyone that you would like us to invite onto the podcast for an interview, then please let us know. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and please remember and subscribe. God bless.
You know, there have been times when, you know, and I don't publicise it, when I have been called in where these people have
been silly,
conducted ill-considered experiments, something has gone disastrously wrong, and I've been called in to settle the whole thing down. And what they've done is they've just enraged some soul who was probably in a state of flux anyway.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, what did we do wrong? And I said, what you did wrong was you messed around with something that you just have no understanding of.
And I think, and here's the thing, I've come across a lot of, you know, would-be professionals in our field that purport to go out and deal with these things and do clearances and all sorts of things. And I've honestly found, you know, if I've questioned them or I've sat and talked to them for any length of time, they don't actually really understand.
A Geiger counter and a heat detector does not make you a parapsychologist.
Or a medium, for that matter, and you know, and dealing with problems that might arise for people being very silly. I don't think they're well equipped, and partially because, well, they're not able to understand discernment. They're not able to go through a process of discerning what is right, what is, you know. We have a basic level of that understanding, but when we start dealing with the spirit world, we start dealing with what we do. I think, you know, when we decide to take up our path as mediums, it is a massive responsibility, and it's also a dangerous life.
I don't want to sound pious about this, but, you know, the problem with modern society, full stop, irrespective of, you know, whether we're talking about the subject of mediumship and spirit communication or not, is there is not enough respect and reverence for God, by whatever name you call God. There is not enough. There is not enough respect for the discipline. There's not enough respect for the power and the importance of prayer, however you conduct that. And I just think that there are far too many people that are going into this and saying, "Oh, I am a medium," without any consideration that you have to condition yourself as a person, let alone whether you're a gift or not. You have to condition yourself as a person to undertake that vocation in life.
I think they've got to understand that it's not an easy vocation to take. And it comes with, you know, in a lot of the writings that I've done, it comes with a responsibility, and as you said before, you put your head above the parapet, you're going to get shot. You've just got to accept that. There's no two doubts about it. And partially, a lot of that is to do with ignorance. What advice would you give to young mediums who aspire to be like yourself or aspire to be like other ones? What's the best bit of advice that you say you could give them?
If they're young and they want to be famous, I would say go on X Factor. But if you want to serve people and you want to serve life, and God may enable you to make a good living out of it, but your motivation must be to serve.
And I think, we can finish this off by saying, in the words of Silver Birch, the greatest gift that we could ever give mankind is the gift of service.
It's a great gift of service, When you stand in front of a member of the public and you say to him, I cannot promise you anything. I can't solve your financial problems for you. I can't tell you whether you're with the right person. I can't tell you whether your future is going to be rosy. But if the conditions are right, I can sometimes draw the two worlds a little bit closer together. And you may be healed by that.
That's awesome. I've heard you say that so many times on the show years ago. As we bring those two worlds a little bit closer together, that was your punchline. It's so true. It's so true. The veil between our world and the next is very, very thin, and it always has been. And as we move forward, I think a lot of people are waking up to that fact.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say to anyone that's coming to it is when you're attacked, don't attack back.
And I know that you have, and I think you just got it. The greatest weapon that you can have, Colin, is silence.
Yeah, I've made that mistake. I've attacked back before, and I've learnt from it, and I've learnt over the years. Sometimes it's just best to say, you can say whatever you want about me, but the truth remains between me and God.
That's amazing, and I think you demonstrated that recently. And as much as when we were talking, I was trying to get that interview that you had on morning television, and I just could not get it here. I just can't get it, and it just won't play. But I read all about it, and I believe that you very eloquently dismantled the Skeptical Inquirer, if you like.
But with this current skeptical organisation, they're called the Good Listening Society. They're putting a leaflet out, and actually, a lot of the things that they're trying to warn the public about, I don't disagree with them.
Yeah.
The things that they are cautioning people about are absolutely correct. The pub. But then I would have to say, in conclusion to this, Jock, the public is sometimes their own worst enemy.
Yeah.
I recently had a woman say to me, I went along to a medium and they gave me absolutely nothing and it cost me £200. I said, and you paid for this? And they went, yes. I said, and after they'd given you nothing, you paid? And they went, yes. And I went, well, then I'm sorry to have to say, more fool you.
Yeah.
You're going along to a demonstration by a medium. You're going to be a part of the message. And if you are fortunate, you may be one of the ones that get an individual message. But a medium should put on an evening so that people understand that they are there to be part of a collective message. Evidence of the continuation of life. And they may be one of the individuals that are part of that, that get that individual message. And as I think I said to you earlier on, there was a very famous South African medium called Mona Vanderwalt. She was Scottish, actually, but
really, where she goes? We get everywhere.
Mona Donald was born. Very, very famous medium in her time, and she was doing a show in Cape Town. And someone came up to her afterwards and said, "Mrs. Vanderwalt, that was great entertainment." And she went, "No, dear, it may be entertaining, but it's not entertainment." And as I said to you earlier, I actually, being an ordained minister, I am the Reverend Colin Fry, I actually refuse to put up this disclaimer now for entertainment purposes only. My rolling screen before the show actually says that, you know, I am an ordained minister. My evenings are an aspect of my ongoing spiritualist mission, and that I do not claim to present proof. I offer evidence. Only the recipients of that evidence have the right to decide whether it is proof or not.
Do you know, that's it's how eloquently can you finish that? That's excellent. It really is, and I think it's you're a credit to spiritualism and a credit to Spirit and to God, and that your work, you know, and I hope your work continues for many years to come, and that we're laughing for many years to come at the state of the skeptics.
I think I must have a pretty cool relationship with God, because the things that I've been through in my life, He's enabled me to carry on breathing. So
you're doing something right, that's for sure. Well, listen, we're going to finish off there because I know you're very busy and I don't want to keep that going forever. But this hopefully won't be the last time that we'll speak and do webinars or interviews on, and hopefully we'll get you over here to America and show them how it's done.
Back to America, but yes. So we'll speak again soon.
Absolutely, that was brilliant. All right, Colin. God bless.
God bless. Take care.
Right. Well, the ASSMPI would like to thank Colin Fry for spending the time with us and being the first medium for our Medium in the Spotlight for the online magazine, The Other Side Press, and we can guarantee it won't be the last time that you'll see Colin here, and hopefully over here in the States as well. God bless everybody and stay tuned. If you are enjoying this episode of Deadly Departed, then please share it with your colleagues or share it with your friends. And if you've got any ideas on anyone that you would like us to invite onto the podcast for an interview, then please let us know. Once again, thank you for joining us today. And please remember and subscribe. God bless.